So I was talking to a friend of mine the other day, yesterday actually. That feels longer ago, but it was yesterday. And I was talking to him about the podcast and using tools like ChatGPT to help me automate things or just other AI podcast tools to help me automate the production process because of course it is just me behind the podcast if you weren't aware. It really is just me doing everything. Hence why please support, please go follow the pages, please go like, please leave reviews, all that stuff. It helps so much. But yeah, I was talking to them about it the other day and they proceeded to tell me about this kind of ChatGPT alternative called Notebook LM. And I was like, okay. I mean, ChatGPT is like my personal little assistant, my bestie, my tool, my love, who does every and anything for me. And I don't feel any need to be unfaithful to ChatGPT. You know what I mean? And then they were like, no, 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 no. No, you need to try out Notebook LM. And I was like, okay. So basically, if you didn't know, the podcast does a couple articles on LinkedIn. So they said, just give me one of your articles and I'll put it in and I'll tell it to generate a podcast for you and we'll see what you think. So I was like, okay, sure, whatever. So they send in this article. It was actually the one that we did, the episode we did on privilege. And they put the article through Notebook LM and said generate a podcast episode, right? And you guys, oh my gosh. I don't even know what to make of. It was genuinely like I was sitting and listening to a recorded episode between two real life human beings. There were ums and ahs in there. There was like laughing, there was inhaling and like breathing and stuff. It was just like so wild. And these aren't real people. Like it's artificial intelligence. And I'm just like, this is scary. And they made it into a conversation. They weren't even just reading out the article. It was like a full-on nuanced, intricate conversation between two human beings that I'm listening to and I'm engaged to, and it's my words that they're using. And I'm just like, wow, that is terrifyingly incredible and exciting and baffling all at once. And he was like, "Do you feel like you're kind of threatened for your job now?" And I was like, "No, honestly, it, that thought did cross my mind, of course, but the thought that really took over my mind was, oh my gosh, this is so exciting. The things that I could use this for. I always want my podcast to be authentic, so I'm never going to generate fake episodes for you with AI, but it gives you different ideas of how you can format your episodes, how you can do different things. And I was like, wow, that is so crazy. And I know not everybody has a podcast, so this might not be as exciting for you, but it was so exciting for me. But that's what made me think about the whole topic of AI. Because as everyone knows, AI is on the up and coming right now. It's kind of taking over our lives. Everybody knows about ChatGPT. Everybody uses ChatGPT. I'm sorry if you don't, you need to get on the wavelength. Just use ChatGPT. It's brilliant. Use it ethically and consciously, but use ChatGPT. It'll save you so much time. Not sponsored by ChatGPT, but I would happily take the ChatGPT sponsor. Um, yeah, so that's what brought me into the quote for today because I was reading this book called The Diary of a CEO by Stephen Bartlett, who is an absolute legend. And one of the things that I underlined whilst reading that book, because I've underlined and taken a lot of notes from that book already, but one of the things I underlined and noted was this quote that he said. He says, "Passionate criticism of technology is usually a positive indicator of its potential. It's a sign that there's something worth leaning into. Someone is threatened and innovation is coming." By Stephen Bartlett. Just to give you some context to this quote, in the book, Stephen was talking about the rise of social media and how he and his marketing team and his up and coming marketing company at the time used to go and pitch to different companies around, like rather big companies that were already established, about how they can leverage their sales and leverage their marketing through the use of social media. Just basically trying to push social media marketing to be on the rise. And a lot of them were skeptical. And he talked about all these different stories of people who just said it was a farce, it was going to fade out, it was just a phase, and all of these different things. And that social media was just a trend and there's no way that they were going to change their marketing tactics that were already working for something hypothetical or something that scared them, essentially. Because at the time social media was extremely new and it was something that we didn't really ever have before. And when there's anything new that comes into our lives, there is an element of it that is scary. There's an element of us that puts our guard up and questions it. We all immediately feel at least a little bit threatened by innovation. It's kind of a natural response to your body because you don't know what to expect and you start to put guards up. But what Stephen is saying is that in this age of innovation, because that's the decade that we are in, we're in the decade of innovation, you have to have a much more open mind to all of these different technologies and creations that are emerging, especially when it comes to something as massive as AI. Because as you can expect, a lot of those companies that turned up their nose at social media marketing either failed, went under, or are currently using social media marketing. So yeah, as the quote says, passionate criticism of a technology is usually a positive indicator of its potential. It's a sign that there's something worth leaning into. And that's what we're going to talk about today. Is it worth leaning into AI? And how do we lean into AI? What can we take from it? What are the threats that we should acknowledge from AI? And how can we use it for the future? Now, when I was listening to this Notebook LM generated episode, I was like, this is insane. I thought ChatGPT, I remember when I first came across ChatGPT and I was in awe at the level of intellect this technological tool had. And to be honest, I fell in love. I was like, oh my gosh, I love things that make my life easier. I was always the person to save like life hacks on Pinterest and stuff like that because I always look for different ways in which I can be more efficient. And ChatGPT was like a godsend. And now I'm looking at Notebook LM and I'm just like, this is such a fast upgrade from what we already have. I mean, when ChatGPT came around, it was like, you know, everybody was enamored by it. And then now we are advancing even faster. Because when I came across ChatGPT, I think it was like last year. And that's when I started really getting into it. And now I use it every day. I use it every single day. I promise I use it ethically. That's another thing we're going to get into. I use it ethically, but the rate at which we are now advancing our AI technologies is just absolutely baffling. And I won't lie, there is an element of it that is, concerning. It is a bit scary to see all the different things and all the different ways in which AI can be used and all the different sectors that it's pushing into and taking over. And then I know everybody is scared of those like bots that we see, those fake human robot people that are extremely intelligent that have been talking on panel discussions and stuff that on social media. I know that's been terrifying everyone. And there is an element of it that is, scary. That goes back to the same newness of it. Change innately can be a bit scary. But the thing is, through everything in life, if you don't embrace change, it will pass you by and you will just be left playing catch up. So I think I've been trying to embrace AI, especially because through using ChatGPT, I mean, I've been able to do so much. And that's the other thing I want to talk about. I mean, there's a lot of complaints that people have when they talk about AI. When you bring up AI, there's a lot of social, ethical, and cultural concerns that, to be honest, are quite valid. And let's get into those before I talk about the ways in which AI can be used for good, because I stand by AI. But let's talk first about the concerns that people bring up because a lot of them are valid. So I think the number one thing that comes up whenever people think about AI and the rates at which it's advancing right now is job displacement, which is a completely valid one. I mean, that's the number one thing that came to my mind as well. When you think about how AI can write articles and do news stories and just take over, for example, I'm thinking primarily about ChatGPT, which has taken over, the writing sphere to some extent. It really makes you think, what's going to become of copywriting skills? What's going to become of journalism? What's going to become of researchers or data analysts and stuff like that? All of those jobs could become obsolete in the next 5 years. I was going to say 10 years, but really at the rate that we are advancing, it could be the next 5 years. And that is scary when you think about manufacturers and manual laborers. a lot of those jobs are being automated by technology. And it makes you think, well, what's going to happen to all those jobs, especially people who have built an entire educational basis and their entire professional life on building those skills, which are now becoming obsolete? That is terrifying. And then the other thing about the newness of AI is that we, since it's so new and it's advancing so fast, it's really hard to legislate against it. It's really hard to put rules in place and borders and guidelines as to how it can be used properly because it's advancing so fast. We only just started putting, you know, international laws on drones and bringing drones into certain countries and that kind of thing. And that's just one AI technology. I mean, there's so many other things that have not been legislated against yet because we just can't keep up. And it makes you think, how far is AI going to push into our lives? And that also makes us think about privacy violations, intrusive surveillance, all of these things that AI could tap into. The whole idea of, oh, they're watching you. They probably are. You never know. I remember people used to put like pieces of tape over their cameras because people could hack into their cameras and start filming them. That's still very much a threat. But now people don't even need to get you on camera. People can go do deep fakes and put videos of you out there that aren't even you and claim it's you, ruin your reputation, or, create all of these false narratives surrounding your identity. Or people can come and have incredible levels of access to you and do intense background checks. And they're just regular, everyday people. They're not government officials or border control or anything like that. They're just regular people who can get all of this information to you so easily because of the level at which our technology is advancing. And that makes me so scared for the rate at which misinformation can be spread and has been being spread. Even in the last US election, I remember there was this deep fake that came out of Taylor Swift endorsing Trump. And she had to quickly nip that in the bud and then go out and actually make a political statement, which might not have even been something she wanted to do, but somebody forced her to do it because there was already something out there of her that was fake that she had to now take control of. She had to now take control of this fake narrative that was being spread about her. And that makes me so terrified for the level at which misinformation about so many different things can be spread. Because the other thing about AI that I found when I was doing, some research about it, the way AI works in tools like ChatGPT or Notebook LM or whatever other research AI platform does is they take information from what's already on the web, right? And the issue with that is that if we already have false information, if we already have harmful discriminatory information out there, or information that perpetuates bigotry and lies, then AI uses that. It takes it and it perpetuates it even further. And we can't blame the tool for doing that because it's going based on what's already out there. Most of the time, if you're looking to write an essay or do research on something, then ChatGPT is just going to give you the information they already have that is on the web already. And in many ways, that can be extremely problematic. And I think one of the biggest things that worries me is that a lot of AI technologies tend to be only accessible or often limited to wealthy nations, thus just exacerbating the global inequalities and just widening income gaps, widening general social gaps and educational gaps and technological gaps throughout our societies. Because not everybody has a computer, first of all. Not everybody has the money to pay for the advanced versions of AI, and that creates even bigger gaps than we already have. And in an era in which I would hope that we're trying to bridge these gaps, that inaccessibility that is still being perpetuated because social justice is really not happening in the way that it should. Since that inaccessibility is being perpetuated in a time of increasing technological advancement, it makes it really difficult for us to curb the inequalities that already exist. In fact, a lot of the inequalities will be worsened. And that is a really concerning issue for me, coming from a global South country, coming from a small island nation, coming from a background in advocacy. I see the inequalities that are already there, and I see the threats that are faced if those gaps are not bridged, and if the access to these incredibly useful technological advancements are not evenly spread and made equally accessible for all. So overall, I mean, in my opinion, all of these concerns are valid. I see them, I hear them, I understand them, I feel them, you know, but I still am for AI. I can't, first of all, it doesn't even matter. It really doesn't even matter what my opinion is. It doesn't matter whether I am for AI or against AI. AI is coming and happening and coming up, whether I like it or not. Whether you like it or not, whether any of us has any objection, it's taken over. And like I said before, if you are averse to change, change will happen and end up leaving you behind, and you'll just be playing catch up while other people are already ahead. So, my best advice is to get with the times. And so, that's what I'm doing. Not really putting my fears aside, but I am acknowledging my fears and figuring out ways in which we can work around those fears and work to address those fears, but I'm also focusing on the ways in which AI is so incredibly positive. And because of those positive things within AI, they help to fix the issues that we just discussed. So let me explain. So, the first, biggest, and best, and my most favorite thing about AI is automation and efficiency. So, as I said before, I'm always looking for ways to be the most efficient that I can be. I love finding ways in which I can be more productive and get more done and, just advance and overall just be efficient. And AI is the perfect tool for me to do so. That's why ChatGPT and I are kind of best friends. But the thing about it that I always tell people, I mean, this might be a bit of a sidetrack, but let's just talk about ChatGPT for a little bit. I know I've mentioned it a lot through this entire episode, but I haven't really talked about it. So, with ChatGPT, I think there's a right way and a wrong way to use it. And I'm sure you've heard this a million times, but I do think there's a right way and a wrong way to use it. And in my opinion, the right way to use it is as a sounding board. I use ChatGPT to bounce ideas off of. Sometimes I'll throw ideas into ChatGPT and say, what do you think of this? How can I fine tune this? How can I make this sound better? You know, help me draft this to get my point across stronger. That's what I use ChatGPT for. Sometimes I use it to summarize things. Sometimes I use it to generate ideas for me. So, for example, I'll tell it the concept that I have. Let's use the podcast, for example. Let's say we have an episode like this one, right? Where we're talking about AI, we're talking about technological advancements, we're talking about the repercussions of that. And I want to create a teaser video for the Instagram, the TikTok, or the LinkedIn, whichever we're posting it on. And I have no idea. I've just got like a mental block, like a creative block. But I know the idea that I have. I know like the concept that I want to come across, but I just don't know how to execute it or how it should be done. So I would put the idea, the concept that I have into ChatGPT, say, okay, hey, ChatGPT, I have this idea. I have an episode about AI and technological advancement, and I want to do a teaser that makes people think, or I want to do a teaser that makes people relate, or I want to do a teaser that makes people, sit up and be like, oh, what's that? Like catches people's eye. And I'm like, okay, I want it to be 30 seconds. I want it to be 60 seconds. I want it to be over a minute. Help me come up with a couple ideas that would work for that and work for my target audience. ChatGPT will give me all their ideas and I go through them. And most of the time, I don't actually end up taking any of their ideas, but I take little bits and pieces of all of them. And it just helps get rid of that creative block. So that's what I mean. It's a sounding board. It helps me generate my own ideas and fine tune things. And then when it comes to efficiency and automation, I mean, that also taps into efficiency, what I said before, but even further is captions. For anybody that is like a digital creator, I think everybody knows that captions are one of the most annoying things and one of the most annoying processes about the whole thing, especially when you're generating lots of posts, like posts every day or something. Getting captions in order and thinking of, engaging captions can be so annoying. So sometimes I just throw stuff in ChatGPT and make a caption and, it does it for me. Other times I speak from the heart. I'm sure if you go through the Instagram, sometimes you can see which one might be ChatGPT, which one might just be genuinely me. I don't know. But most of the time I try and change it up Actually, every single time, really and truly. But I do try and change it up so it is me. If you're a student in school, when it comes to ChatGPT and you're trying to write your essays, guys, please do not let ChatGPT write your essays. I'm not trying to sound like a mom. I'm not trying to sound like, a stiff or whatever. But the way that I would use ChatGPT is, especially if I'm really tired and I don't have the energy to write an essay, but I have all the information in my head, I'll just blurb it all down onto like a sheet of Word document, copy and paste it into ChatGPT, like a paragraph, for one section of the essay, and be like, how should I format this so that the essay, it can be an essay format? And ChatGPT will help me and it'll, help me write better. So once again, a sounding board. There have been times where I've been up writing really late at night and I'm at the conclusion. And the conclusion is really and truly just kind of a summary of the everything that you've said. And I'll copy and paste my essay into ChatGPT and be like, summarize this for a conclusion. And then I'll edit it up so that it sounds, what I want it to sound like. And boom, it's just a tool. But you cannot have it take over your skills and make you numb and just have ChatGPT do everything for you. That's the incorrect way to use it. And I see too many people doing that, and it gets you in problems. But we won't talk about all of that right now. Right now, we're going to talk a little bit about automation because we went on such a little tangent. I mean, it's relevant, but still. So there's so many different AI tools in which we can now automate our practices. We don't have to manually enter data anymore or manually analyze things. We can just use AI to do it for us in the blink of an eye, and that saves us like a week of work. And now we can move on to the execution process. We don't have to be in factories hand bottle capping bottles, like putting caps on bottles. We now have tools in which it does it in like 15 minutes, 10,000 bottles capped in like 15 minutes. And we can move over to packaging and to distribution. There's so many different ways in which the automation tool of AI has just sped up our world to a way that it's just much more efficient. I think even I read somewhere, I cannot tell you. Do not quote me and try and ask me for a source because I can't remember. Go research it yourselves. But I think AI did have a hand in assisting with how fast and efficiently we got out the COVID-19 vaccine, right? There's so many different ways in which AI can be used to save lives, to just automate our lives, to make it more efficient. And I think that is one of the biggest benefits. And that's also one of the main reasons why, once again, I'm for AI and for its advancement, because ultimately it is just accelerating our progress as a species. That's one of the reasons why a lot of advocates tend to speak to the people in these positions who have a lot of technological resources or resources in general, whether it's policymakers, government officials, billionaires, whoever, who are the ones that are pushing this advancement, pushing this progress to change their mindsets to more of a people over profit mindset. Because whatever your mindset is how you're going to shape the work that you do, if that makes sense. So, for example, if you have a profiteering mindset where you're just only about money, then you're not going to care about the people that you're hurting. You're not going to care about how ethical your practices are or are not. And the reason I even mention this is because the people who are behind AI have such a power in their hands right now. We saw how quickly the COVID-19 vaccine was able to be distributed and basically just discovered, and how that saved so many lives. We can do the same thing when we talk about issues like climate change, when we talk about inequality, and we talk about wars and famine and drought and all these different issues that we're facing in the world. AI can have a tool and a hand, can be a tool and have a hand in rectifying those issues if that is what we prioritize, right? And I think that is the type of progress that I want to see AI tapping into and pushing forward. And this is such a brilliant time for us to do that. It's actually not even a brilliant time, it's a crucial time. So one of the other reason number 2 that I'm for AI. Y'all can't convince me to not be for AI because it's stacking up benefits, guys. And if you think about it, it's rectifying some of those problems that we talked about before. And speaking of those, let's go back to the biggest one, the job displacement one. Now, that is probably one of the most valid things because I do really worry about the amount of jobs that will be in jeopardy as we progress with AI. And I think that's where our personal responsibility comes into play I think this is now a crucial time for businesses to give their staff the opportunity, or just schools, parents, anyone, or yourself, give your staff, give your child, give your students the opportunity to upskill and reskill. So, what does that mean? Upskilling would be look at the different ways in which you can gain skills that are relevant to AI right now, whether it's building AI, whether it's utilizing AI, whether it's understanding how you could incorporate it into the stuff that you're already doing, as a CEO, as an entrepreneur, as just an employee, and just pitching it to your bosses to see, hey, here are the ways in which we can use AI to automate and make our work more efficient in order to acquire more gains and more success for us. Think of ways in which you can upskill, and then reskilling. Reskilling would be trying to see what new skills that you can gain that help you keep up with the times, because if you stay averse to change, change will move on without you and leave you behind. And I don't want you to get left behind. I don't want any of us to get left behind. I want success for you. I want to see us all thrive. So that's why I'm encouraging everybody to constantly try to better yourself, constantly try to see what new skills you can acquire and what ways in which you can upskill the skills that you already have. I mean, this is exactly what Stephen Bartlett was saying in his quote. This is a sign. The fact that AI is advancing so much, it's a sign that this is something worth leaning into. Innovation is coming. Innovation is here. Innovation is progressing. And we need to innovate along with the innovations. And then, of course, I feel like it's just crucial for us to try our best. I think governments are doing this, though, to try and figure out the ways in which we can get comprehensive laws that guide the usage of AI, especially in sensitive areas like healthcare and finance and, you know, defense, like international defense of countries and stuff like that, because it can get really touchy when you have the level of power that AI has and it's just not kept in check. I think that can be really scary and really dangerous, but we're trying our best to keep up with the times, because obviously AI is advancing way faster than we as humans can keep up. And so I am really excited overall, though, to see the ways in which it progresses and the benefits that it can bring to our lives. Because even though it has deficits, and I acknowledge it has deficits, as does everything. Nothing is perfect. When we brought around the internet and Google and social media, there were a million different deficits to that, but the benefits have outweighed it. And that's what I see for AI as well. And I think fundamentally, once again, this is something worth leaning into. So look into it. Think about the ways in which you can use AI to better your life beyond just writing your college essays. Try and think about the ways in which you can upskill and reskill yourself to be able to find success in a newly technological world. So that's all I have for you guys today. I've talked enough about this. It's a really interesting topic, but I'm really happy that you got to the end of this episode and that you listened and shared with me your time so that we can talk about AI and all of these different other topics that we will talk about in this podcast in future episodes. And with that, that's all I have, guys. Love you so much. If you want more of the Notes and Quotes podcast, make sure to check out our socials on Instagram, LinkedIn, TikTok, and YouTube for video episodes of guest episodes. Notes and Quotes podcast for the YouTube and the LinkedIn, Notes and Quotes pod for the Instagram and the TikTok. And if you want more of me, I don't know why I went so high pitched. If you want more of me, you can check me out on Instagram at Naomi A. Cambridge, and I'll be there. Shoot us a DM, shoot us a message if you have any questions or anything to share. We would love to hear from you and see your reviews on the podcast. Please do so. We would really appreciate it. Anyway, I'm going to stop rambling now. Bye, guys. I'll see you next Tuesday. Have a beautiful day, night, evening, afternoon, wherever you are. Love you so much. Bye.